Mayo, and I think healthcare in general, has a culture of putting a lot of smart people in a room. You people come up with a solution, bring it back out, and then we'll kind of pilot it, which is very sophisticated and basically never really goes away. That was kind of the Mayo model before we were really here. And what we've tried to introduce is a strategy of getting ourselves out of that room as quickly as possible, because healthcare delivery is so complex, and what happens to that group of people in the room, no matter who they are, you could put 15 designers in there, so it's not role dependent, but in order to come up with a universal solution, they start to strip away the complexity, and then they bring it out and they introduce it into the environment, and it doesn't fit into workflow, and people don't embrace it, and it just sort of sits there flat, and it doesn't end up correcting the problem that it was meant to do.
It's not a top-down. This is really a grassroots effort. We come in with resources. We have resources in the matter of people. We can supply them with people in order to allow room for the experimentation. We have technology that we can bring. We have people that can kind of barge through some of the barriers that they may run into. But ultimately, they're creating their own solutions, and they're identifying their own problems, and they're creating their own solutions at the grassroots level. And that is, to me, the best way to implement, because they participate in designing their own solutions themselves. They own the project themselves.
The idea of pushing an idea, so have an idea, a new way of doing something, and you kind of push it top down, tends not to work here. And the one-size-fits-all solution doesn't really work. What does work is to kind of empower people to be part of designing the solutions themselves.
Typically, it's a pull. People are coming to us saying, we want to partner with you. So there's already this spirit of willingness that they want to try something. And what we do is we set them up and we describe what the process will be. We do the brainstorming activity first, where we try to engage all the participants from that team to contribute their ideas and bring forth their ideas. We then take from the brainstorming activity, we also then move to observational research, where we send our people in doing the research as far as observing what's happening in their practice. And oftentimes what we find is through the observational research, we uncover things that maybe even in their own storytelling through the brainstorming exercises that they didn't even recognize were happening. So we use the brainstorming activity, the observational research, and then we bring that information back, and we bring their team back in, we bring the design team in, and we do a synthesis of that information. People who are doing the research, people who are sharing in the brainstorming are all telling their story again. The designers are hearing the stories, and they then are kind of articulating that through the pictures, through the words, and coming up with key findings or key things that they can bring from that.
At different points in the process, there are different leaders. In the big idea space, there's generally Mayo Clinic leadership, physician leadership, CFI catalyst. Let's have the ideas that might be. As we pass to research and observation, there's interactive designers who take more of a lead role. As we get closer to implementation, I believe you met with the lab coordinator, Naomi Wycheck will take the lead role.
We have 4 weeks of prep work that we do with the group before, and that 4 weeks includes all of those, the brainstorming, the observations, the storytelling, and then building the prototype. So we talk to them about working through that 4-week process with the expectation then that when we're done with that 4-week process, we move to prototyping. We come into their area and we actually start to put into practice some of the things that we some of the concepts that we hope to test and try out. We're working right now in the pediatric ear, nose, and throat group with getting their team ready to prototype. So we've been working through this process of brainstorming and the observational research, and we had some of their employees were doing the research with us. And we, at our synthesis session with the designers, we asked them what it felt like to do that observational research. And the response from one of the individuals, he said, I can't stop. It's like now, it's like wherever I'm going, I keep looking for opportunities. I'm looking for people's experience as they're going through different situations and experiences. He said, I don't care if it's in the grocery store or where. He said, I find myself in the mode of just looking with that kind of eye on what's going on.
My definition of design is creation according to a plan. So the research is in order to give us understanding of the kind of a lay of the land, and then to craft the plan. And then as quickly as possible, we move into prototyping, which we do in real-world clinical environments. So to the extent possible, it's real physicians, real nurses, real clinical assistants, real patients doing whatever they would normally do, only now we add in this additional thing that we want to test. So we have a hypothesis, like what do we think is going to happen? We're going to do this, and what do we think is going to happen? And so we do that, and we answer that question, and then inevitably it raises more questions. And so we kind of get more and more sophisticated prototypes until the point where we feel confident enough in the idea, in the details of the idea, that we can hand it off to the groups or people within the institution, and they can sort of run that final piece through implementation.
We find that we can get a pretty solid deliverable in a half year or less. And actually, if you can do it in 3 months, it's sometimes even more compelling. Again, remembering that that might be the first phase, design perhaps, there'll be a second prototype and a third one, but by delivering them in 3 months, we get positive energy, we learn from our mistakes, we learn from what we do well, and that actually works pretty well. So far 6 months would be big, 3 months would be less.
So while we have a physical place we call a design studio, the design studio is completely virtual. So it's the idea of meeting people where they are, whether they're patients that are going through various parts of the clinic, whether it's patients who are hospitalized, and we need for our designers to actually go into the hospital setting and live in the hospital along with patients and their family members, whether it's going into a community like Austin, Minnesota, and living there for 3 months so we can understand all of the intricacies that go on with people in their daily living. It's really taking the designer resource, and yes, we have sociologists, we have anthropologists, we have a whole variety of skill sets that are part of that user research team, trying to get to the user within their setting. We'll be doing a lot more of that as we extend our reach outside of the physical site.
Our design team has actually put together a toolkit, and one of the things in their toolkit that they have put together is a booklet that really walks you through the process of how to do observational research. And I think that in itself has helped us to really describe to someone, as far as when they go in to do observations, what are you looking for, how do you do it? And so that toolkit has actually been very helpful.
One thing I would say about definitely Spark and also Center for Innovation is one huge work in process and one huge prototype in and of itself. So it's very rare that I can look back and say, we've done this, like I was saying, exactly the same for the last few times. Each new project brings its own challenges. We end up rethinking and kind of recrafting what we're trying to do.
We use a phrase here sometimes, teach them to fish, don't give them the fish. And I think that's one of the things as we start to work with individual practices and we work at that level, hopefully we're giving them skills then that they will continue to use even after we're gone.